Good day, and welcome to Your VIDHS, a podcast that explores all of the wonderful programs provided by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Human Services. My name is Ryan Nugent. I'm the Director of Communications, and today we will have a great episode where we will be exploring fraud, Medicaid fraud, and SNAP fraud. Out of the 83 programs that house in the Department of Human Services, SNAP and Medicaid generate millions of dollars for their clients every year. These are two major programs, one that deals with food and nutrition to our families that need safety nets, and the other ones that provide medical health insurance through our state program to those who need the assistance. Today I am joined by Cheryl Willie, Performance Reporting Director, and Mr. Kevin Dennin, Director of Program Integrity for the Department of Human Services. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, guys, let's talk a little bit and educate our audience first. Let's begin with SNAP. What is SNAP fraud?
Well, SNAP fraud in a nutshell has to do with eligibility fraud. Eligibility fraud has to do with an individual not reporting their right income, the number of people that are in their household, or any information that we require that you may report to us falsely. It is a problem because it has to do with your benefit amount.
Yes.
The amount, the information that we require from all our customers are based on us getting the proper information that will allow us to serve that individual in the manner that they need to be actually served. So we have eligibility fraud, and we also have what is known as trafficking. Trafficking is when a customer and a vendor actually, the customer goes into a store, the vendor would be the store, and they exchange their benefits for cash.
Wow.
Or firearms, or possibly maybe even narcotics.
Wait. That actually happens? People can exchange their benefits that are on this card for various nefarious things like that and activities?
It actually does.
So we're talking about food and nutrition. So it's really, whoever is getting caught up in a scam, there always is somebody who's going to be compromised in the end. Most likely it's the client, right?
It's the client and the program.
So let's talk about ways that we can prevent saying no to scams or stopping people from engaging in fraud. What are some of the things that the program has developed to stop?
Well, I'll begin by saying this. The SNAP program is based on integrity. It's based on the integrity of our clients. It's based on the integrity of our vendors. We need for individuals who are receiving these benefits to be honest. When you take your SNAP card into a vendor and you say to them, well, I need $100, and they take $125 off your card because you basically have to pay the price. You may not see it as that you're committing a crime, but you're hurting the entire program, and it is a crime.
So this can be found at levels of the recipient, but also at the retailer level as well, then.
It is. It's a collaboration between both.
Wow.
When that is happening.
Let's jump to Medicaid real quick and we'll get back to you. Of course, you know, Medicaid serves 39,000 clients in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's a very important program. Can we talk a little bit today about the different examples of Medicaid fraud that we see here in the territory?
Sure. Medicaid fraud is the intentionally providing of information in order to obtain federal funding for healthcare services. So basically, Medicaid fraud can be grouped into two different categories. The first is provider fraud.
Right.
Medicaid enrolls certain providers across a wide range of healthcare services in the Virgin Islands to see our clients. An example of provider Medicaid fraud would be billing for services that weren't actually rendered.
Right.
Another one is what we call upcoding.
Yes.
Where client may go in and get one service, but when the provider bills Medicaid for it, they bill for a much higher priced service.
Right.
Dental, for example, go in and get a cleaning, and yet the provider is billing for porcelain enamels, which is much more expensive. And that's a case of healthcare fraud and Medicaid fraud.
And in these cases, the person performing a scam through fraudulent codes or upbilling or upcoding, they receive more residual, more money from the scam that they've perpetrated. And what happens to the Medicaid recipient itself, or the person who's holding the card? Are most times, are they in cahoots with this person, or are they
Sometimes,
victims in certain situations?
Sometimes they do have an agreement.
Okay.
But in most cases, the other type of fraud is member fraud, where the Medicaid recipient is actually creating the fraud by underreporting their income, underreporting upon enrollment the number of household members
Right.
that they might have. All of those things have to be reported to determine a member's eligibility. So those are the two different types of fraud. But one thing I want everybody to understand is for every dollar that Medicaid pays to pay a fraudulent claim is a dollar that can't be spent helping somebody in the territory that really needs the help.
That's very unfortunate. Let's jump back a little bit to you said unbundling, or the process of somebody using multiple codes to charge for something that they never charged for in the first place. Do we see situations like that here in the Virgin Islands?
We do.
At our local doctors or at our clinics?
Unbundling is kind of it's a little bit different than upcoding.
Okay.
Medicaid has certain procedures where they have bundled coding,
Yeah.
which basically Medicaid pays for an entire procedure, which may take 2 to 3 visits, all under one code and one payment. But we do have providers that charge the bundled code, but then also go back and for the same recipient, charge each individual code, and they're basically double dipping and getting paid twice for one procedure.
Wow. This is something that we definitely need to stop because it's hurting the integrity of the program and the recipients who need Medicaid so much. Let's jump back to SNAP real quick. What are some examples of fraud that we've been seeing lately in the territory that we need to address?
Individuals underreporting.
Okay.
Underreporting is a problem. We also have, and by underreporting I mean where you come in and you basically intentionally are not reporting the fact that you may have 2 jobs. You may tell us about one, but not about the second. You may tell us that you're not receiving any money from your children's father when you actually are. You may tell us that you are your any type of income that you are not reporting
Yes.
is underreporting. We have instances where individuals are now leaving the island and they are maintaining their SNAP card from the Virgin Islands, and then they are doing what we call duplicate services. They are actually, if they're in Florida, they're applying for benefits in Florida as well.
I heard
It's
about this.
double dipping.
Yeah. Card cloning. That's what I heard. Yeah.
Well, card cloning is when someone gets a hold of a customer's card
Right.
and they actually clone it. I am talking about when a customer actually leaves the island and intentionally, knowing that they maintain their case
Yes.
on the island, and then they go to an agency, another SNAP agency stateside, and they submit another application
Wow.
for another card, another
Man,
benefit.
People are getting high tech with these scams.
Yeah, so they had double dipping.
Yes.
What has been happening within FNS, which is the Food and Nutrition Services, they are looking at ways in which we can collaborate as an entire country
Right.
to basically identify individuals who are moving from state to state, state to territory, territory to state, and requesting duplicate services. In St. Thomas and St. Croix, St. John, we just have one agency.
Right.
One agency in the Virgin Islands that does SNAP. But stateside, you can drive from Massachusetts to New Hampshire to Connecticut and apply there. I mean, it's just a drive. It might take you an hour or two, but it's just a drive. And duplication of benefits is a problem. So we are connected interconnected with, computers, systems that are designed by FNS to actually identify these types of infractions. We also we can track your EBT card.
Right.
We know if you are spending it within the Virgin Islands, if you're spending it in California, because it shows up every time you swipe your card or every time your number is entered into the POS system, which is the federal bank system where your card is swiped. That is recorded. Once that is recorded, we can track it.
Yes.
We can track it.
And it's important that we do that
Yeah.
because I'm very surprised that people are taking it to this level to create such criminal acts to receive money from this program. I have no idea that this was even happening in certain instances. Let me jump over to Medicaid. Just like Ms. Willie did, what circumstances have you found that is most troubling or concerning when it comes to fraud in the program?
One of the big issues that we've uncovered is when we're talking about providers. It is utmost important that if we go in and we ask for patient records because we're auditing a certain thing, that the patient records reflect what was billed to Medicaid.
Right.
For example, and I use Dennis a lot, but you're going in and auditing a patient file that you said received root canal. You know, there's certain things that we should see in that file. We should see x-rays
That's
of
right.
the patient.
I went in for all of that. I don't know where you got me for this cast. I didn't pay for that medication. I mean, this is really what's happening out there. Continue, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. And if the information, if there isn't a detailed information in the file for us to make a determination that those services were actually rendered, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So patient records, first and foremost, need to be in line.
How can I discover if a fraud is being perpetuated on me in Medicaid? Because it's a lot of codes, a lot of numbers, a lot of services when you get it back from your insurance company and you want to know what's going on. I just went in to, get a minor little surgery and there's all of this paperwork behind it. How can I tell if, somebody's teething behind the background, in that doctor's office?
They can, members can log into their account to see what was actually charged to Medicaid.
Excellent.
And the services. And if you find something in there where it was billed but not done, that's when you need to contact Program Integrity so that we can take a look and investigate it.
That's great. And what steps will you guys take once you get that phone call? Do you contact the office itself or?
The first thing we do is what's called, we intake the complaint.
Right.
At that point, it's assigned to an investigator and possibly the program integrity analyst to pull some more data from that provider. We will then go and we will get the patient record from the provider and see if what's in the file matches what was billed to Medicaid. Once the program integrity unit discovers a probable case of provider fraud,
Yes.
at that point we would turn it over to the Department of Justice, the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit,
Yes.
who would further investigate and then refer for prosecution if needed.
Absolutely. Refer them to prosecute. You hear that? I hope my mom is watching this podcast because, this is very important. Some of these doctors to be up to no good around here, but no, we love our doctors. Let's jump back to SNAP real quick. I want to know, after all of these different, ways of fraud that's being perpetrated, what are the penalties to catch some of these people stealing this money from these these individuals? What are some of the actions that are taken towards individuals who are performing these frauds?
Well, let me start by the first part of what you said, the penalties.
Yes.
For us to, before we can even detect fraud, fraud comes to us by the average individual within our community. If you see something, say something.
Right.
And basically, we are our biggest and best identifier of fraud. Once we get a complaint, and that complaint is it goes through claims, and that complaint is rendered to be more than $500 as far as
That's
the
a
infraction.
threshold?
That's the threshold.
Okay.
Then that is sent to fraud for investigation.
Right.
Our complaints come from the certification unit. They may come from the claims unit within the department. It comes from a whistleblower complaint that comes straight from FNS. It may come from a customer complaint or someone just picking up the phone and calling our hotline and saying, this is what's going on. We investigate every complaint that we receive. The problem is that sometimes some of the complaints are on individuals who are not receiving benefits or whose cases were closed.
Wow. Wow.
So those become a closed case. It's something we've investigated, but there's no legitimacy to it. Once we investigate a case and we can prove that that individual intentionally violated the rules and regulations of SNAP, that a report is conducted, the investigation is done, a report is written, that goes to the administrative disqualification hearing process. That is where you have an individual whom is basically, they may work within the government system or within the Department of Human Services, but they are a neutral person as far as making a decision. They are listening to facts.
Right.
They are not on the agency side, they're not on the customer side. They basically make their decision based on the facts presented to them. Once the hearing is done and the hearing officer makes a judgment as to whether or not the individual intentionally deceived the agency to obtain benefits, if it's their first offense, they are disqualified from the program for 1 year. If it's their second offense, the disqualification is 2 years.
Right.
However, the only person that's being disqualified is the individual that perpetrated the fraud.
Right. Correct.
And usually that is the head of household. But if you are the head of household of your family and you have 3 children, your 3 children still receive benefits. FNS is not in the business of
Punishing everyone involved
of
in
having
the matter.
hungry children.
Absolutely not. This is
They
about
are
food
in the
and
business
nutrition.
of feeding.
Exactly.
So only the head of household is disqualified. Once that person is disqualified, and as I said, a year, 2 years, you can never ever again obtain benefits throughout the United States and its territories. You are placed in a system called the EDRS system, and it is nationwide. And anytime you apply for benefits, you will show up as somebody who was disqualified once, twice, or definitively.
Definitively, yeah.
Yeah, so our public, as a result, we tend to get some criticisms from the public. Well, they're not doing anything. You have to be able to prove intent with fraud.
Absolutely.
Then we also have individuals who are taken advantage of. We've seen individuals where the mother is the head of household, but the fraud is being perpetrated by her live-in boyfriend or someone of that nature, or a neighbor may have taken her card. Intent is not always easy to prove. And then some of our clients are victims themselves to fraud. So it's a lot of judgment.
Yes.
Not judgment, but basically you have to investigate with a really open ear to the facts of what is going on,
Yeah.
and then make your recommendation to the hearing officer, and she either upholds it or she does not, or he or she.
Yes. Mr. Dennin, what are some ways that we can, if we witness it in real time, report Medicaid fraud? How would we get in contact with somebody to start an investigation?
Well, if you go to the DHS website,
Right.
I'm in the process of changing the website a little bit, but there's going to be a link on the very first page that says Report Medicaid Fraud.
Right. Excellent.
That link is going to take you to a page which will do a couple of different things. Number one is I'm going to have a fraud flyer on there, which kind of outlines what the different types of fraud are.
Right.
Because a lot of the phone calls that I get,
I imagine they're very nuanced. It's all, especially since it's Medicaid, it's all different forms of fraud in different ways,
well, we need to differentiate between fraud and malpractice.
Okay,
those
good.
are two different things. So
That's an excellent point.
when I get a call saying they did a surgery and they screwed it up, what are you going to do? Well, that's malpractice.
Yes.
That is not fraud. So I'm going to have some things on there to outline exactly what instance the fraud might be. So to actually report fraud, we're going to have the fraud helpline number, which they can call, and it will come directly to Program Integrity.
And we'll put it up right here. There you go. It's up there.
There's also going to be an email address that will come directly to my box
Right.
for intake. And then the third thing, which I've just implementing, is an online complaint form
Excellent.
where they can fill it out, hit submit, and that will come directly to my mailbox again for intake. But as was said before, the community has to play a part in this. They have to
Absolutely.
be our partner in reporting this, because they're going to find and uncover a lot more than me and my team are going to be able to find.
Right.
So that's important, that they, if they see something that just doesn't look right, even if you're not sure, report it. We will take a look at it and make a determination.
Ms. Willie, how can we reach you if we see any signs or indications that SNAP fraud is being perpetrated?
The fraud hotline is 340-715-6973. You can call that number. It's directly at my desk. If I'm not there, of course, you can leave a message on my voicemail. But once it goes to voicemail, it will be identified as the fraud hotline. Individuals actually sometimes walk in our building and make complaints. I actually like the complaint form on the website.
Yep.
I truly like that. That is something that I too would want to implement on the DHS website. I think our generation, basically, they're
Absolutely.
techie.
Yep. Fast-paced.
So, and they don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to see anyone. They can actually just do that form. So that's just something that I'm going to borrow from MAP as well.
We'll get it up
Yeah.
there. Make sure we'll get that up on our website for you guys as well. Let me jump to one last quick thing. And it concerns Medicaid and SNAP. We have a program, it's called the Affordable Connectivity Program, where individuals who are on SNAP and Medicaid can be eligible for a free laptop from certain internet service providers. I know that Via is a partner, as well as Liberty and several other amounts. But have we found, I've been hearing that there are actually individuals out there using this technique as a way to get Medicaid and SNAP numbers from individuals locally. Have you been hearing about any of this going on?
We actually had a report on St. Thomas concerning that. There was a vendor that was showing up in the public housing communities, and as a form of identification was asking individuals if you could qualify for this free laptop or this free tablet. I think it was a tablet. By presenting them with your SNAP card or your MAP card.
Right.
Primarily, this individual was actually recording their SNAP numbers, so we took a look into it. And as far as the Affordable Connectivity Program,
Yes.
we traced it back. He was not listed on that program, but he was a subscriber connected with one of the individual companies
Right.
that were, we actually got the police involvement in actually determining whether or not he was legitimate or not, and we found that in the end he was. I still had a problem though
Yes.
with him recording SNAP numbers and MAP numbers. I think that process is something that needed to be looked into.
Yes.
But the police found that that they were not violating any rule in committing a crime. But I think that within the department, I think we may need to say to these companies that as long as they can bring the letter
Yes.
that says that you are a customer or you are a recipient of benefits, that should be
That's
enough.
and from what I understand, that is all what they need is that letter proof. They don't need to provide any number or from Medicaid or SNAP to any of these individuals out there. Now, there is legitimate companies that are working with the Department of Human Services as far as these laptops and tablets, but please check with us to see if they are a legitimate business that is associated with us. We can easily verify that for you before you make a mistake and give your number, your MAP number, your SNAP number to someone who you don't have any idea what they're going to do with it. Am I right, folks?
Yes. Cloning can be resulted from card cloning, from actually giving anyone or someone your number. They just need your number.
Right.
And they can clone your card.
And that's it. And those benefits for your family is now gone. I want to thank you two so much for coming with us here today, Ms. Willie, Mr. Dennin.
You're
Any
welcome.
final words from the two at all for your clients out there?
I will say this. I will say this. The Virgin Islands receives at least $65 million in SNAP benefits annually throughout the territory. Fraud is a problem for all of us. Without this program, there are many people in our community that will not be able to feed their families in the right way. They won't be able to get the nutrition nor the meals that they should be getting for their family. SNAP fraud is a problem. SNAP fraud is a problem for all. And if you can help us by reporting what you see, it is greatly appreciated. We can ill afford to lose this program.
Thank you.
And on the Medicaid fraud side, kind of to reiterate, we went through 2 Cat 5 storms at the end of 2017, which was catastrophic. But when you look at the federal Medicaid dollars coming into the territory, the damage that would be done by losing federal funding, which can happen if those federal funds are not being used properly. So again, we need the community to partner with Program Integrity to try to make sure that every federal dollar that's spent over here is spent correctly and is spent properly.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us and listening to these two very important topics, SNAP fraud and Medicaid fraud. Toby, I want the Law and Order theme to play from like the beginning to the end because that's how serious it is. We'll see you on another edition of Your VIDHS. I'm Ryan Nugent. Take care.